24th Sunday in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. The Lord God opens my ear that I may hear, and I have not rebelled, have not turned back. I gave my back to those who beat me, my cheeks to those who plucked my beard. My face I did not shield from buffets and spitting. The Lord God is my help, therefore I am not disgraced. I have set my face like flint, knowing that I shall not be put to shame. He is near who upholds my right. If anyone wishes to oppose me, let us appear together. Who disputes my right? Let that man confront me. See, the Lord God is my help. Who will prove me wrong? The word of the Lord.
I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. I love the Lord because He has heard my voice in supplication, because He has inclined His ear to me the day I call. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. The cords of death encompassed me, the snares of the netherworld seized upon me. I fell into distress and sorrow, and I called upon the name of the Lord. O Lord, save my life. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. Gracious is the Lord and just, yes, our God is merciful. The Lord keeps the little ones. I was brought low and He saved me. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. For He has freed my soul from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling. I shall walk before the Lord in the land of the living. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living.
A reading from the letter of St. James. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister has nothing to wear, and has no food for the day, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, and eat well," but you do not give them the necessities of the body, what good is it? So also faith of itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Indeed, someone might say, "You have faith, and I have works." Demonstrate your faith to me without works, and I will demonstrate my faith to you from my works. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples set out for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Christ." Then he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly, and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this he turned around, and looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan! You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." He summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, and that of the gospel, will save it." The Gospel of the Lord.
The 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Isaiah 50, 5-9. This is one of the songs of the suffering servant. This mysterious figure, about whom 4 poems were written in 2nd Isaiah. And the suffering servant, we hear, would suffer meekly. He wouldn't try to respond to violence with violence. Rather, he would trust in Yahweh as his vindicator. Now, vindicator in Hebrew is the word goel, and it could mean redeemer. It could mean the one who takes my part when no one else will. In fact, this was the phrase that was used for that relative who would take one's part when one was losing one's house, when one died without having a child. The goel would marry the widow, things like that. God will be our vindicator, so no one will dare stand against us, because God will stand for us. The second reading is from James 2, 14-18. In this passage, James talks about the fact that we have to express our faith through works. Now that seems to be a contradiction with the letters of Paul, which spoke about the fact that works don't do us any good. But remember, what Paul said is that works don't bring us justification. To be justified means to be at peace with God. And nothing we do can establish that peace. It's only the Father's love expressed through the death of Jesus on the cross that has brought us that peace. How do we obtain that peace? Through faith. We have to trust in the love with which God has loved us. It's not we who establish the peace. It's God's love that establishes the peace, and our willingness to live in that love. What is James saying? James is not saying that we're justified by works. Rather, James is saying that we need works to express our faith. Because once we're living in the love of God, we can only truly say that we're living in the love of God if we're doing things. To say that I love God and sit on a chaise lounge and wait for 4 angels with ostrich feather fans to cool me off in the heat doesn't really make sense. If I really want to be in the love of God, then I'll be loving as God is loving. And God expresses his love by showering it upon those whom he loves. Therefore, I have to express my love by helping those who are in need, especially the hungry, the poor, those who don't have enough to take care of their own needs. The Gospel is from Mark 8, 27-35. Now this is the first of 3 episodes in which the disciples respond inappropriately to a prediction of the Passion. Jesus first of all asked his disciples who people say that he is. And their responses varied. Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, others one of the prophets. He says, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter responds, "You are the Christ." Now remember, the word Christ is the Greek translation of the Hebrew word Messiah, which means the anointed one. Peter is pointing to Jesus and saying he is the anointed one, he is the chosen one. What is Jesus' response? You're right. The Son of Man has to suffer and die. Now, Jesus takes the phrase Son of Man from Daniel 7. In that passage, Daniel was probably talking about the people of Israel as the Son of Man. They would receive power and dominion over the nations. And that passage was originally written during the Maccabean persecutions. And so the prophet was trying to console the people, saying, you'll win in the end. But at the time of Jesus, the title Son of Man seems to have been applied in an individual way. And Jesus, in fact, uses it for himself. Instead of calling himself the Messiah or the Christ, he calls himself the Son of Man. But whenever he does, he borrows vocabulary from the songs of the suffering servant. Remember, the first reading was from one of those songs. He talks about suffering and dying, his suffering bringing forgiveness to the people. What is Peter's response? Peter says to Jesus, don't say that, they'll get the wrong idea. Because Peter's concept of Messiah is to be a conquering hero, to be a king. Whereas Jesus' concept of the Son of Man is to be one who suffers and dies for others. Peter thinks that if Jesus is Messiah, then Peter at least will be prime minister, and he doesn't want to lose that privilege. Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Satan in the Old Testament is the tempter, and that's exactly what Peter is doing. Peter is tempting Jesus to misuse his authority, to try to think of himself instead of others. And then he tells Peter and the disciples, not only must he suffer and die, but they must take up their crosses and follow him. Now remember, Jesus hasn't died on the cross yet, so why would Jesus use a phrase like that? And it's very possible that it was just a common phrase used at the time to pay the ultimate price. But it's also possible that Jesus realized that if he was going to die, it would be through the hands of the Romans, and they killed people through crucifixion. Whatever it was, he's reminding Christians, all Christians, including ourselves, that to be a Christian you have to pay a price. And that price is our very life, our love. We have to give our all, because otherwise we can't truly live in God's love. And may God bless us.